Looks like we are live. Welcome everybody to the Cerebral Spice Rack. Sorry, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but we got another special episode for you. Oh, look at the kitty.
Nice cat. Works.
Yeah. So it's actually a very important subject as we got the election coming up here in a couple weeks, and we're going to be talking about why we are supporting Trump for the 2024 election. And I know just for me, it took me a long time to get here personally. I know it's probably the same with you, Tony. So I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get right into the questions.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Tony Mesta. I've worked with this wonderful guy Everett here in the past for a while. I definitely am more on the libertarian side. For those that are fans of theory, I like to classify myself as an anarchist Hoppian. I'm very libertarian and I lean that way for pretty much all issues. The only contested issues that people have told me I'm not very libertarian on is I'm very pro and I'm closed borders. Those are the two that or some people may not consider as libertarian. Some do consider it libertarian. It's everywhere. But point is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much not aligned with Trump in a lot of ways. He's a fan of spending money. He's a fan of vaccines. He's a fan of authoritarianism, and in general, just I always had a disdain for him as a libertarian. When I first got interested in politics, I was a fan of Trump because I was a bit of a neocon.
Mm-hmm.
I grew from neocon to libertarian, and I reverted into kind of like the mix I am today, and had a complicated relationship with him as I went through that. I didn't even vote in 2020. I just abstained altogether because I couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump again. But this year, I proactively made sure that I'm registered and I'm going to be voting early for Donald Trump because I think you put it best, Everett. Uh, if there is somebody that is trying to run for office that the state relentlessly is going after time, then they must be doing something right if the
Mm-hmm.
state's going after them. And in my brain, the state, or in other words, the government, is the enemy. So if the enemy's after Trump, then Trump's doing something right. I like that, so I'm totally behind him
Mm-hmm.
going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you with all that. Yeah, I mean, you guys might have seen my post. Obviously supporting Trump out here, and we have like I said, it took a long time to get here, but we have our reasons, and it is just the past 4 years under the Biden administration is just the destruction that has been wrecked on this country is just it's astronomical, and with Trump, I know you said earlier. Not on the podcast, but it would be lesser of two evils kind of thing. I don't really look at it as lesser of two evils because I think Trump he's okay. He's all right. I don't really look at him as evil. Kamala and the Democrats, yeah. I think they
That's
definitely
definitely
have
yeah.
a faction of very hardy fucking evil people in their party. And that's not to say the voters are evil, but there's some people at the top that are just the worst people on the planet. So, anyways, let's get into the discussion topics. So, I'll pose this to you, Tony. So, what was your opinion of Trump before the 2016 election cycle, and what party did you most align with? I guess you already answered some of that. So,
I did a little bit of a portion, but if I'm being honest, I didn't align with anything, and I was apolitical altogether. In 2015, I was 20 years old. Um, I remember being 2021 or something like that, and I was very apolitical. I just knew that in my brain, the normie take, oh, Republicans are the racist ones, Republicans are the ones that hate poor people, so I have to vote blue. Um, and that's what my mom taught me most of my life. That's what my family believes to this day. I got my mom on the train and got my aunt on the train for the right, but to this day, the rest of my family believes that wholeheartedly. They're pro-gun and decided that it was a great idea to vote for Beto O'Rourke. So just to give you an idea of how brainly they are on politics, so it's I wasn't really anywhere. Trump actually, on top of kind of bringing me where I'm at now, he also woke me up to politics because everyone around me at work, at the time I was working at Dish Network, everyone around me would always be like, "Oh, Trump, have you heard all the stuff Trump's saying? He's racist. He's terrible. He's a fascist. All these other stuff." And I was like, "Wow, they really just let this person like talk on TV? Really? Well, let me take a look." And I listened, and none of it was accurate. He was just, championing American values, championing traditional values, talking about cutting taxes, talking about, the corruption that is rampant in government. And I agreed with pretty much everything he said. And I figured, wow, I guess I'm a Trump supporter. I went to a Trump rally in El Paso that, by the way, was so flooded with people that there was a line outside of thousands of people just trying to watch him.
And this was back in
I
2016.
back in 2016, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, Trump was he was a phenomenal guy at the time. I thought he was like gonna save America, that it was gonna be great. I was very neocon. I started listening to Ben Shapiro. I was very into Jordan Peterson. I started kind of falling down the pipeline, if you will. And then from there, I just kind of thought he was the guy. Little by little, here we are. I became more libertarian. Started thinking, he's not close to libertarian, and we ended up where we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely a lot different than you on that. Because I actually remember thinking explicitly to myself back in 2013. I was watching a Fox News clip, and I watched Fox a lot back then. I don't really much anymore. It's all about those independent journalists now. But back then, he would call into Fox and Friends a lot, and I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, I was like, you know what? I might be able to vote for Trump if he ever runs for president. And this was 2013. And then, move on to 2015, 2016 when Trump gets in the office, or not the office, but he starts running for the primary in the Republican Party. So that year I was completely full on board Rand Paul. He's my favorite guy in politics. And I think he would have made a much better president than Trump. He still would. And just the way that Trump was acting in the campaign and some of the things he did and a lot of the things he said, it just didn't resonate with me. And of course, along with that, since I wasn't already on his train, I was I kind of got caught up in the media rhetoric about him, being I think the biggest one was probably a fascist, because I remember seeing this one clip of him when he was at a rally or talking somewhere, and I don't know why I thought of this at the time, but he was saying how, get those lights off, get them off right now, I need them off, and I was like, that's a fascist right there. I don't know why I thought that. I mean, it just seemed like a little authoritarian to me.
It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, he's like you said, he's an authoritarian type of guy. He's not super libertarian, but he's definitely more libertarian than the Democrats or the left is.
Oh, absolutely, especially considering the Ross Ulbricht pledge and the fact that he promised to have a libertarian in his cabinet. And I don't know, Thomas Massey's recent endorsement of him decided to say libertarian in it. I don't know, my tinfoil hat thinks that he's going to put Massey somewhere, but who knows?
That would be amazing. Oh my God. Yeah, Massey, Rand Paul. I wish Justin Amash was still in Congress. God, he'd be great. But at least he's got people like RFK and Elon Musk coming into the cabinet to help him with some of his policies. I think that'll really help him out. But anyways,
Vivek as well.
Oh yeah, Vivek. He's great too. But yeah, anyways, getting back to the 2016 election, when he won the primary, I think that's when I denounced my Republican partyship, I guess you could say. I don't know how to, but I was heavily aligned with the Republicans until he got the nomination. And then after that, I switched to Libertarians, and I voted Libertarian all the way through 2022, basically. Senate, House races, all that. So that's that. So I guess the Republican Party was the most I was aligned with before Trump got in, but then after, it was the Libertarian Party, and it's been the Libertarian Party since. I'm still a Libertarian. I still believe in those values. So I'm not denouncing any libertarian values, but obviously our candidate freaking sucks this year, so that's another reason why we're getting on board with Trump, because our candidate, he's pro-vaccine, pro-mandate, and all that crap, and that right now that's one of the top issues for me, because the blatant totalitarianism we saw over the COVID lockdowns is just, it made me so sad. I remember thinking back in when I was in college, 2016 or 17. I was dancing somewhere, and I was just like, wow, like the government could never shut down something like this, just something so, wholesome. It's just, people dancing. And what did they do 4 years later? They shut down everything. They shut down schools, bars, libraries, every public place you could think of, and California was especially bad. But anyways, we'll get more into that topic a little bit later. So that one we did. So I guess you might have answered this one a little bit too. So how did your opinion of Trump change during the 2016 election?
Uh, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I did answer it a little bit, but just to explore it, I guess a little more. And by the way, I'm completely with you on your view of Chase Oliver. I do want to clarify, just for the sake of the people that are yelling right now, the big L libertarians that are losing their mind, that Chase Oliver isn't pro mandate or
Oh
pro
shit.
vaccine. He's pro private vaccine mandates, but I think that because of what they did to us, that's not even a justified thing, honestly. So continuing on. Um, Trump really did, change a lot of what I thought a politician should be. In my head, I always figured politicians are boring, important, quote unquote, people in
Mm-hmm.
suits that are just out there doing their thing. And, I don't need to be involved in that. I can't even comprehend that. Obviously, I'm very wrong now. I'm deeply involved. But, at the time, I figured, oh, that's nothing. And, he seemed so anti everything that it used to be. All the boring parts, all of the calm rhetoric, all the respectable bipartisanship, he seemed to kind of throw that out the window, and I really liked that. I thought that was cool because it was very different. So little by little, I really started to radicalize, and I started wearing my MAGA hat. I had a black MAGA hat. It was obviously a ripoff because back in 2016 they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the black MAGA hats. It was like a ripoff that the streets vendor was selling, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "That's cool. It's black. I'm gonna grab that one because I'm edgy or whatever." Um, and overall, as time passed by, 2016, 2017, 2018, I noticed that all of his press conferences, he didn't shy away from questions. He was
Mm-hmm.
very, very confrontational. I enjoyed that. It seemed like every time something happened, he would snap into action pretty well. And when COVID happened, I became a little bit disillusioned. I'm not gonna lie, because in 2020, when COVID happened, is when I joined YAL, and that is when I became more libertarian. And he started Operation Warp Speed, and in my brain, I thought, wow, that this is very authoritarian. There's
Mm-hmm.
vaccine mandates all across America. Look what Trump did to our economy by sending out these stimulus checks. He gave all of this relief money to these businesses and millionaires. It's just insane bullshit, and they just stole all my money. And it was a lot for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I did eventually get a little bit more away from Trump as he ended his 2016 run. I was definitely floating more towards Joe Jorgensen, so I just
Mm-hmm.
decided not to vote.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely, in my view, did really really strong up until that last year when COVID just kind of just
Yeah.
destroyed any possibility of him being remotely libertarian. Really.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can definitely agree with you there because I don't know. Like the vaccine, I think it has helped a lot of people, but then again, like him pushing the vaccine through gave Biden the ability to then make a mandate for it, and you know, it really sours me that Trump just can't take a little responsibility on this. And I know he says that he would never do mandates, but really, you know, warp speed is what caused that to um, get in. So one second, I'm trying to get Chris in here. If you wanted to go on here, I'll ask you a question then, and then you can go off on it while I try to get Chris in here. So let's see
Okay.
here. So, oh, this is going to be a good one. So, how did you feel on election night 2016 when it became apparent that Trump was going to win?
Oh, this was definitely okay. My cat is just really insisting on being in the camera. That's Dave, everybody. Dave's great. Dave is a wonderful cat. But so back in 2016, I remember, I went into the voting booth and I looked at the options, and I said, "Yep, I'm gonna do this." And I pressed Donald Trump and I pressed vote, and I walked away and I remember thinking, "Wow, I did it." Well, we're probably not gonna win, but at least I gave it a shot, and I voted for the guy that I think is gonna do a better job than Hillary Clinton. Even from the minimal amounts I knew about Hillary Clinton at the time, which now I know she's a blood-soaked warmonger and is a disgusting human being. There's a lot of politicians I would shake their hand. Hillary Clinton is not one of them. I would shake Bernie Sanders' hand. I would shake Beto O'Rourke's hand. I would not even remotely associate with Hillary Clinton. That
Mm.
is a disgusting human being.
Oh yeah.
So, I knew that I was on the right side of history on that one. And I figured, you know what? The establishment's going to win. It's okay. At least I gave it my good old shot, right? And the best video I ever saw about it, it was hilarious. There was a video on YouTube that I saw that said it was like the flight of the bumblebee playing behind like a track, and it was showing Trump pulling in every single swing state, and then just pulling in state after state after state, and just watching him throw everything into just beating Clinton's like he did. Was a really, really fun experience to watch. I was in shock. I thought Trump was going to lose. I was 100% on the train that Trump's going to lose. There's no way he's going to win. Hillary's going to win. She's a blood-soaked warmonger establishment monster. And she lost. She
Mm-hmm.
lost, and the memes started pouring out of all the crying liberals, and, Trump got the W.
Yep. Yep.
And then, as we know, the Democrats claimed that it was rigged and fake, and just like the Republicans did in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think that we forget these things. It was 8 years ago. We're not that old, or that young, really.
No, I know.
Yeah, yeah, but it was good stuff. It was a good moment because I need to send you that video at some point. But it was really funny. It was really comedic of like just all of these commentators going off about, oh well, there's a 99% chance that Hillary Clinton's gonna win.
Yep.
There's a 95% chance Hillary Clinton's gonna win, and it's playing that with Bumblebee in the back, or the flight of the bumblebees in the background of Trump like coming over the screen and just being like red, Wyoming, Arkansas, like every state, and he just wins,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really cool. I was very surprised. I couldn't believe it. Um, Especially because we had just gotten, like we were just there. Like it was, we just had a Democrat in
Mm-hmm.
office. It was just insane to me that we flipped and that Trump's there. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a really fun experience for me personally. Now that we've got everybody here, I think I'm pretty
Yes.
wrapped
Yes. So
up.
we got Chris in here now. Chris Clayton. And can you hear us, Chris?
You guys can
Restarting.
see the Trump flag in the background?
Yes, we can,
Let's
dude. Fuck
go.
yeah.
All right.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, you're super clear now. So if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working for Santa Maria Alco. I actually just got out of work just to make it in time for this podcast. But I guess other than that, I'm a fellow liberty enthusiast and an American and someone who wishes well for Donald Trump and his hopeful victory in just not even a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, I know, right? We got a week and a half, so we'll get your thoughts on a couple of the questions I posed to Tony, and then we can get back to the questions we were on. So I guess what was your opinion of Trump before the 2016 election cycle, and then what party did you most align with?
Me personally, man, like
Yeah,
I was Team Gary Johnson in
yeah,
2016. So
yeah.
to put on the MAGA hat, man, took me something of 7 to 8 years to come around
Mm-hmm.
full circle to that.
Yep.
Um, I don't know, man. Like I just thought I just genuinely wasn't convinced that he was somebody that was actually going to have enough political clout to take on someone like Hillary Clinton, in 2016. I honest to
Mm-hmm.
God thought he was trying to shoot himself in the foot in many instances, thinking maybe it was just some kind of elaborate dog and pony show. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think over the last 8 years, he's really proven to actually be something of a champion against these people, and that want to control every facet of our lives.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like we've been saying, it's taken a long time for us to come around too. Like I didn't vote for him in 2016, didn't vote for him in 2020. Voted straight libertarian. And then now, ever since the assassination attempt, it's like I'm full on board. I don't support all of his policies, but it's like, man, we gotta. Oh, Tony was saying earlier how, and I said this in my post on Facebook too, but how the state is just they're trying everything they can in their power to destroy this man, to kill him, to put him in jail, to make him irrelevant, and it's like none of it's working. Yeah, I mean he, by the grace of God, he's still alive. After that first assassination attempt, it was so close, um, and that whole day with him getting shot and then standing up and being like fight fight, that is just that is peak politics right there. I don't think I've seen anything that's even come close to that in terms of bravery
Something
or
like that.
courageousness. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's like a dying declaration that he's professing from the bottom of his
Mm-hmm.
heart. I mean his head's probably ringing, having taken like a bullet to the ear, not even
Mm-hmm.
knowing if it's mortally wounded him. And that's something he genuinely meant in the moments in which he probably thought he could have been dying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bleeding from his face and holding his fist up to the crowd. Like that's an immortal image right there.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more, brother. Like that entire thing, it was an act of God because if he hadn't turned at that exact microsecond to look at that chart, it would have been over. And that moment of imagine getting shot and the first thing you think is these damn people. We have to fight back. Like I can't believe they did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you can tell that really shows the authenticity, which is wild because politics. Politicians aren't authentic. And that was an authentic, real raw victory, just brave moment that just
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris couldn't touch a 10-foot pole remotely on the other side of the room. Like it's nothing. If
Mm-hmm.
she's an empty, and this person is a genuine patriot that got shot and is like, no, you do not get to feel sorry for me. You must feel anger. You've got to fight back at this. That's amazing, dude. And I was really inspired as well when I saw
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's actually, I remember that day as when I felt inspired enough to actually openly tell people, you know what? Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
voting for Trump.
I think
I
I did
actually,
too. Yeah.
yeah, and I bought a one of his shirts that of him like with the fist up at that point. And I have that in my closet as well, or my bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
I mean,
Well.
yeah, it's
Oh, go ahead.
resilience in the face of death, man. That's the hallmark of any leader.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, but we'll get on to a little bit more of the assassination attempt later, and more reasoning for why we came around this time. But the question we were on right before you came on, Chris. So, and it is a good one. You're gonna like it. So, how did you feel on election night in 2016 when it became apparent that Trump was gonna win?
Surreal. I had pretty much already surrendered to this notion that Hillary Clinton, it was already kind of in the bag for her,
Mm-hmm.
just the numbers they were gonna crunch the numbers and somehow that was gonna be the end result. So it really was something to my surprise to actually see him win in 2016. It was just kind of a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, having been Team Gary Johnson, there was just I don't know, I don't really know. Going back to that day, 8 years in time, I guess maybe a little unnerved, maybe a little like frightened, because it's
Oh,
just
okay.
like we don't really know what to. I just didn't really know what to expect, and I could have sworn the whole time he was really just doing all that to help Hillary Clinton, but
Mm-hmm.
the moment he actually was able to clinch the victory, it's like spotlight kind of goes to him, and it's like the floor was his, and and then there was obviously a lot of animosity and hype in the media that he was going to lead us to World War III and hurt us all, but I mean that couldn't have been further from the
No,
truth.
I know exactly. No, that night was surreal is a good way to describe it. But the moment he started gaining on Hillary, and I'm totally with you. I was completely bought into Hillary's gonna win. It's all bought and paid for. Trump is probably Pied Piper candidate, you know.
Yeah.
And that is a factor of why I wasn't supporting him at the time. But man, the election night when he started to pull forward, I had this just inner like ecstatic just happiness that Hillary might fucking lose, and then she did, and I was like, oh my god, like I didn't like Trump. We all know that. We all had our opinions on him back then, but to see Hillary lose was one of the greatest moments in my political life. It was just it was great. And I do agree with you there too. We all didn't know what was gonna happen. We were like, oh shit, well, Trump's in now. Let's see what he's got. And he ended up being one of the most moderate presidents of my lifetime. So and that's why we're trying to get back to it now to get out of this freaking rut of Democrat control the last 4 years and just how I didn't think the Biden administration was going to be this bad. Like, I knew it was going to be bad. It was going to be a little shitty. Tax policy, financial policy, all that. But man, did he and Kamala, they have almost put the death knell to the United States, and it's and that's why I'm finally coming around because we have to get these people out of office. We have Harrison for 4 more years. It's that's it, bro. But I got a question about that at the end, so we'll circle back to that as Jen Psaki likes to say. So let's see here. So, and we already covered this a little bit. So how do you think Trump's first term was in terms of policy? Like, did you agree with it? How was it? And we'll go with you first, Tony.
Okay. Trump's first term, I think If I'm being honest, I wasn't a huge fan of some of the stuff, like when he tried to ban bump stocks, although the Supreme
Mhm.
Court knocked that down. That wasn't something I liked. And he doubles down a lot, which, there's good and bad there, because, like, at least he keeps to it, but also, he doubled down and said something along the lines of bump stocks are stupid anyways, or they don't even work anyways.
Mhm.
Which, like, it defeats the purpose of principle, and I don't think
Mhm.
Trump has principles. I've never thought he does, nor am I
Yeah.
deluding myself to think he does.
Mhm.
And so that bothered me. Another thing that bothered me during his run as well was him raising the tobacco age from 18 to 21.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Fuck.
I had a lot of friends that
Omnibus
were
spending bill.
exact the
Fuck.
oh, brother, it's on the yeah, the
Horrible.
spending bill. When he raised the tobacco age, a lot of the, my fellow stoner friends that use, blunt papers or whatever were upset, like really upset. And I had just been buying all these people into, like, hey, this guy's the right choice. Hillary Clinton was terrible, and he goes and just destroys his own reputation by doing that. Omnibus spending bills, but I will say that the positive parts, he did, keep us out of wars.
Mhm.
I really loved, the Abraham Accords wasn't necessarily peace, but it was a step to it.
Mhm.
He met with Kim Jong Un in person. That took
Mhm.
balls of steel.
Oh yeah.
Um, he was very friendly with every world leader, which is necessary for peace. For some reason, Democrats like to have this narrative that you're not supposed to talk with these people, which, like, how are you supposed to keep peace if you don't have an open dialogue with them? The entire point of being a president is that you keep peace by dialogue and diplomacy, and they just find some way to twist it into calling him a fascist for being friendly with Kim Jong Un so
Mhm.
that Kim Jong doesn't send his missiles at our allies.
Mhm.
Um, and it's there was a little bit of tension with that whole Rocket Man drama for a little bit, but I think Trump kind of squashed that pretty quick. I remember a lot of those main points. The omnibus spending bill was bad. He also, if I remember correctly, I think it was the first part of his term. He had all three chambers.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, Paul
and he didn't
Ryan.
do anything,
No, didn't do anything.
do shit, and it was really upsetting because, like, I expected more. Like, you think he would try to get some meaningful stuff done. He definitely didn't. The one thing he did do that I'm a big fan of personally, he did get the Supreme Court justices on the
Mhm.
court that then destroyed Roe v. Wade.
Mhm.
I'm an extremist on abortion, so I think that we should completely ban abortion for any reason and only care about life of the mother. Every other reason, the baby has no reason to be slaughtered in the womb. That's my view. So, I wish he was a little bit more pro-life openly these days, but he was extremely pro-life then, to the point where he's responsible for that repeal.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. Those are really most of my thoughts so far there.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? What do you think about his first term in office?
Before he even assumed the presidency on January 20th, there was a period in which he was um, presumptively elected, right?
Yeah.
And think of just how many parallels that the people had been forced to draw on through incessant promulgation by the media, that he was like essentially Adolf Hitler,
Mhm.
or parallels to the rise of Adolf Hitler in 1933, and just what people were supposed to expect, with that being the way that their minds would be primed to essentially view him, like that being the palate on their tongues before he's even had a chance to do anything. I think within the first 365 days, to my recollection, it was clear to me that it was more so the media that was far more problematic than he
Mhm.
ever could have been policy wise. He tried his damnedest with the border and building the wall. I know there was a lot of moments where that had been sabotaged from like a congressional and like the Ninth Circuit courts. Um, the tax cuts he was able to get through, I think in December. Let's not forget the First Step Act in later 2018, the legalization of hemp
Oh
federally.
yeah. Great.
There was a lot of things that I think even now as a candidate running in this election, he is not given the due credit for. And I guess
Mhm.
that's on top of like taking like actual steel, man, to the face, and just being one resilient son of a bitch, like
Mhm.
in ways that I could relate to in a lot of the things I've experienced in my life. There's
Mhm.
really no candidate that I'm able to resonate with, as much as what he's been able to do. And I know there's been unfavorable policy positions related to, how he had the ATF reclassify essentially a piece of plastic to function as that of a machine gun. It's quite funny because he was actually, I think, vindicated by the Supreme Court that he had helped build in undoing that set of logic. So it kind of like brings it back to like a net zero as far as what he might have the ability to do to make good on his promise to be a champion of the Second Amendment and other portions of the Constitution.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
So
definitely with you on a lot of that there. Yeah, like I was saying before, I did think his presidency was very moderate. There was a lot of conservative policies, but then there were a lot of more liberal, non-free market policies too. You bring up the hemp bill, that was amazing. But you get stuff like the bump stock ban and raising the smoking age to 21, and then pushing the vaccine. All that culminates in just in 2020 for me, just not wanting to really pull the trigger and actually endorse and support him. Um, and one of the worst things he did in his first term was who's that one warmonger that he had on his cabinet? I'm blanking on his name right now. The guy with the mustache. You guys remember John? You guys know who I'm talking
Oh,
about, right?
John Bolton.
John
John
Brennan,
Bolton. John Bolton. No, it's Bolton.
oh Bolton.
I think Bolton might have been one of the worst things that he did with his first presidency. Even though his foreign policy was good, just having Bolton there, it could have made things really bad. But it is surprising that, like you guys said, we didn't start any new wars. Wars were actually deterred. Like in Ukraine, I remember 2014, Obama, was in office, and that's when Russia really started pushing into Ukraine. And then Trump gets in, nothing, not a goddamn thing for 4 years. And literally the year after Biden gets elected, what does Putin do? He pushes right down into Ukraine again, takes Crimea, takes the Donbass and all that stuff. Along with Israel, Hamas didn't do a goddamn thing those 4 years. At least anything big like we had on October 7th. But that's another thing that the Biden administration and Democrat policy has just kind of allowed to happen because they're just weak. They're weak-willed. They don't want to show a force of power to deter any of this. They just always want to be complacent. They're almost like Chamberlain. Was that his name? The UK Prime Minister with Hitler. Um, Although I'm not comparing Putin to Hitler. I think Xi is probably the more Hitlerian figure. But obviously, Biden, Harris, they are not the ones to be able to stand up to that kind of stuff. And Trump really did. Trump, he kept them in line, And the one thing that's always come podcasters and people in politics come back to is that he threatened to nuke Beijing and Moscow, if they either went in Taiwan or Ukraine. And even if there was a small chance of him doing that, that deterred them from taking any action while he was in office. So definitely a couple good things, definitely some bad things. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm really hoping this next administration he pulls together can really fix a lot of these problems. Get rid of the income tax. Have an RFK and Elon Musk do their stuff with inside the cabinet to get things rolling. Government on and all that. But anyways, we will move on to the next question. Oh, and I guess this would just be a quick one. I think we already touched on it, but did you support Trump in 2020? Me, no. I think Tony, you were no, right?
So I did, but I didn't. I wanted to, but I just didn't vote at all. So I would
Oh,
say no. Yeah, technically not.
okay. And then
I did.
you okay? You voted for
Yeah,
him and
I'll make
everything.
I'll make no qualms in saying that, man. Like, and this is the same man who I feel is bold enough that I can't afford to not give a chance in the
Yep.
face of Kamala being the alternative, which is really no alternative if weighed properly.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one, and we've been touching on a lot of this as our discussion has progressed here. But what are some of the most important factors of the last 4 years that led to your support of Trump this year? So we'll start with you, Chris.
Wow. I mean, it's a good question. I just I don't know. I maybe I'll maybe
Yeah, we'll let Tony.
Yeah, I'll
we'll
answer that
circle
second. I'll
back.
really think about this
We'll
one.
circle back.
Jen Psaki
Yeah,
status.
Gen
Yeah,
Sec.
but can you repeat the question for me?
Oh yeah. So what factors of the last 4 years have led you to support Trump in 2024?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is the economy, which is like the typical libertarian or Republican answer, but definitely is the real one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to be able to afford to get my 2 weeks of groceries under $100, and now I have to spend at least 150, $160, and that's like if I really get great value everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like double down on my meat, or like if I'm very conservative on everything, that's about what it looks like. Um, there's natural inflation that happens over time,
Mm-hmm.
which and the Fed, hopefully that wouldn't happen again. But point is, it's obvious to everybody that it's harder to survive. It's harder to make. Rent is sky high. It's much higher than it ever was. Uh, Grocery bills is the biggest thing. Like I said, for me, I would say, at least for me in my personal experience, it's doubled. Um, Biggest thing also is gas. I remember under Trump, it was sometimes leaning into the twos, but it was in like 190, 180. It was pretty stable there, and it would lean into the twos a little bit sometimes. And it was pretty steady, at least in El Paso where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
So like that is dramatic from like driving down Austin right now. It did come down for election time, but it was three something. It was lucky if it was under $3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of these little things add up, and especially that wages don't rise as quickly as inflation does. And as inflation rises, costs for businesses add up as well. So they're not raising the wage, not because they don't want to or they're greedy, like the left likes to say. It's because it's not economically feasible yet because of them having to adjust to the economy. So like because they destroyed the economy so quickly, they also just destroyed everyone's possibility of success because people were getting raises and they were getting promotions, and it was a pay that in their mind before that presidency was good money, but now it's just average again. They're just back to the same damn plateau. And that is why so many of people our age are communists, because they think that communism is what the solution here, that now everyone has the same amount of money, versus just bothering to understand economics for a second, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So like economics is huge for me. I think that is the most glaring, obvious problem that Kamala and Biden did so absolutely terribly on. With that said, I'm very big on anti-war as well, and I think that war just absolutely blew up under them. Like you said, the moment that Biden was in office, Putin decided to march right into Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Israel decided it's time to go and just genocide the Palestinian people. Um, I don't take a side in either of those, but I think that war is bad in general and that
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't be bombing children for any reason. Sorry. Oh, wait. There's a base for Hamas under your hospital. Well, I guess a few kids is fine if we get the Hamas people. Like, and no, 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 none of them. No, nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really sad, and the war part is a bit of a problem for me. Um, Another thing also is I feel like this one's a little bit harder to take because I'm pretty sure you guys lean on the more pro-choice of the libertarian stance. I found that people embraced the abortion stance way more heavily these last 4 years, to where they have made it their entire personality and their
Mm-hmm.
only political take. And a lot of people are so damn stupid that their only thing that they care about is them being able to slaughter children.
Mm-hmm.
That is their main take. That is what they care about, because Kamala and Biden have not shut up about it these last 4 years. And it's all that they care about. So like those are some of the disastrous things that I've seen that bother me personally.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, right there with you. So what about you, Chris? Any factors you can think of, like like he was saying, the economy, inflation, wars, vax mandate, DOJ targeting of Trump, assassination attempts, like what?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. And I'm so glad that Tony had an opportunity to answer first, because I don't want to just give you a bullshit answer. Like, plain and simple, the relentless and coordinated persecution of Donald Trump in the wake of his reemergence into this election cycle. I
Mm-hmm.
think he had been indicted by 4 different jurisdictions in a matter of a span of months,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And just it's a lonely place to be. It's he it's nothing that I haven't personally experienced on the other end. And I can tell you that it's just a coordinated effort to drag him through the mud so that he's exhausted his funds at being able to come back and to run his name essentially through the mud, such that he is unable to successfully reemerge as a candidate. They want to smear him as a felon, right? I believe that's the term we've heard over the last 5-6 months. And just his resilience to potentially overcome that, and to actually come back and to defy that the state, which is incessantly gunned for his head at this point, has made me support him. So just because I'm able to relate to him, and I guess a number of ways for having made it so far, even despite the odds. And he doesn't have to do any of this. He could just be living lavishly at Mar-a-Lago, golfing for the rest of his life if he really wanted to. He doesn't have to be doing any of this. And I think it really genuinely speaks volumes to the testament of his character, to continue persisting on in the face of the people who want him dead and imprisoned and put underground. So I think that's just one of the things that I could personally say, just to answer your question. Like, if of all the things I could have thrown in the dark to, I really think that that's something that speaks volumes to not only me, but probably millions of other people that are watching.
Yeah. He's completely courageous. I mean, if any of us were tested like he's been, I'd like to think I would do some of the same things, but I don't know. I've never been tested like he has, been shot at, been just the full book of the law thrown at him. And that's actually what got me to start thinking about supporting him was back in 2022 when they raided Mar-a-Lago. I remember I was on a campaign with you, Tony. We were out there with Baxter, and I was out knocking doors. And I remember sitting there with Corey in my car, and it's coming out right then that they're fucking raiding his Mar-a-Lago for shit that Biden had did as vice president. So Biden had no authority or legality to do any of this stuff, and they don't go after him for it. But the actual president that has the ability to declassify documents and hold them and everything, they go after him fully. So that to me, it was just like, wow, dude, they are really, they're so hypocritical. It is insane to me. And I mean, that's a given. The media establishment's always going to be hypocritical like that. But that was really one of the first times that I started considering voting for him. And I remember actually making a Facebook post about it. I was like, man, if it keeps going on like this, I might just have to vote for him. And then what,
Yeah, no, the victimization of him is actually, it's funny you guys brought that up. Like he's a felon that's been shot and has multiple baby mamas. I don't know. He sounds pretty inclusive. It's pretty good stuff.
He's a G, dude. No.
He's a G, yeah.
He's right up there with 50 Cent, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I put in the chat. I don't know if you guys saw if the chat works, but I put many, man. Like, yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, they kept going at him, and it wasn't until that first assassination attempt where I was like, okay, that's it. You gonna try to kill him? He's gonna get my vote. So, I can't really do more other than making calls, getting on the ground, doing podcasts like this to support him. But I wish I could do more, and I had more resources to really get the word out there more. But other than them targeting him so much, I think the biggest thing for not supporting the Biden admin is the vaccine mandate for me, because that's the reason I'm not in California anymore. I had to leave because California was all about it. It was not like this state where they actually had some protections for people, and also the culture here was a lot more free. I guess you could say, like, Wyoming is a very self-sustaining place. People here are strong. They don't need help from the government, and this is really a great place to weather the storm of COVID. And I'm sad I didn't get out sooner to here, because it's been great. Other than winter sucks, but the people here and the non-willingness to go along with all of the Democrats and the media and establishment bullshit is it's why I'm here. And that vaccine mandate, I can't go back to it enough. I know we talked about COVID on this podcast a lot, and it's very, obviously it's an important topic to me, and just the way they pushed it, and I couldn't believe they would force people to take a vaccine that has evidence of causing myocarditis, pericarditis, along with other vaccine injuries. Yeah,
Operation Warp Speed.
yeah, and that, I mean, Trump, like we were saying earlier, that's what Trump pushed, and that was probably a reason that I didn't end up supporting him in 2020. Um, and warp speed is really what gave the Biden admin the ability to do the vaccine mandate. But I go back and forth on this because I do think the vaccine is good somewhat. It is good that it's out there, but it should have never been forced on everyone. Um, I can't express enough how much that disgusted me with our politics, and especially in California, where they were full on board with whatever the Biden admin wanted to do. Other than that, the global war is the big thing for me. And then the other factor, like I was saying earlier, is RFK joining on. These independents, these Democrats. We have Tulsi Gabbard now that has joined on. And Tulsi was always one of my favorite Democrats. And to have her supporting Trump, like it's mind blowing. We have all these people forming a coalition around this guy that is just like, fuck the state. Well, not fully, but most of what the state and the establishment is doing. And we're finally getting to a place where we're going against all of this messaging bullshit, and I'm excited to see what he can do when he wins. So, anyways, we'll get to our last question, and then we'll wrap things up. And this is gonna be a little rough one, but so what is your outlook on the future of the country and world if Trump doesn't win? We'll go with you first, Tony.
Oh, that's a rough one. That's a rough one. So I'm gonna be real. Funny enough, Sean sent out like a system-wide email asking everybody to do a 270 to win to see who do you think's gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would love for Trump to win, obviously I'm voting for him. I'm super behind him. I personally think that Kamala probably will win, only because of what I said earlier. That I genuinely believe that 90% of women in this country are gonna vote for Kamala because they want to slaughter children. I know that that's maybe a radical talking point, but I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, believe that, and I think that that's going to be a giant chunk of her voting base. I have met so many liberal women that refuse to be nuanced in any other issue. That is their entire thing. Is
Mm-hmm.
oh, I want to slaughter a child.
Single issue voting. Yeah.
And that is all they care about. And so I'm a little bit black pilled here, and
Me
I
too.
genuinely do think that win. Now, with that said, again, I'm trying to be optimistic. There's a lot of energy behind him right now. It seems like the polls are looking his way. Kamala's town hall was terrible. His Joe Rogan interview was phenomenal. I
Mm-hmm.
heard most of it last night. It was really good. He was humanized. It was really, really good in my opinion. The sad reality though is I think both sides are pretty locked in at this
Mm-hmm.
point. I don't think that anyone's gonna sway because they watched Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what upsets me. So I think that this world, if Kamala wins, one, I think she's probably going to further destroy the economy. I definitely see us entering World War III altogether because no country is going to respect or listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely believe that overall there'll be much more authoritarianism, even though, Trump claims to be the libertarian. The libertarianism is just going to go out the window. Kamala is the most authoritarian person I've ever seen. She locked up dozens and dozens of black men into prison for smoking weed, and she's going to lock up more of us. So like it's not something I'm very happy to see. The only thing I could see her doing positive from a libertarian view is she was a very big proponent of qualified immunity, ending qualified immunity. So maybe she would do something good there,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that it's not even close to as much weight as literally everything else in the world falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a little much. I think she said she was gonna legalize weed. I don't believe that
I don't
because if
believe
she
it
was
either.
done that with Biden and not descheduled it down low, she would have just removed it altogether from the scheduling. So I think a post Kamala world looks unfortunately really dark. I think that it's a world that may not even exist, and I unironically believe that that could be what leads us into a Fallout esque, terrible war after.
Mm.
We might start getting inscripted places. At best, we might just have an even worse economy where it's even harder to pay our rent, harder to pay grocery bills, and have all types of rampant just loss of cohesive culture. Also, I'm very worried about if Trump supporters lose again, how are they going to react?
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of friends that are very radically right wing that are preparing themselves for with armories, with all types of stuff because they are ready for if there's a war. I don't think any of them are going to kick it off proactively, but it seems like there's a lot of us that are ready for that. That's not a good thing. You know, America shouldn't be in that place, but we are. We really are. So I think it looks really dark, and I pray to God every day that Kamala doesn't win, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's gonna be really bad, to say it lightly. So what about you, Chris? What do you think is gonna happen if Trump doesn't win?
Nothing that I even want to imagine, man. Like just
Mm.
absolutely abysmal reality that I for the sake of my own mental health in such a trying time, I'm just trying to get through my last year at the university before I get my STEM degree, and it's like
Oh shit.
that that is such an abysmal reality that I mean it's not going to deviate very much from what Tony just described, but it's just I don't know. It's nothing that I even want to imagine. It's just the rapid acceleration of the West. I mean, if I could sum it up in just a handful of words, um, I think that's probably close to what you'll witness with the magnitude of a Kamala Harris presidency. Um, but like I said, man, it genuinely frightens me, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
keeps me up at night even. Just even thinking of the alternative to Donald Trump not successfully coming back. I just
Mm-hmm.
um, it's nothing I can it's nothing I even want to imagine for the sake of my own mental health, man. I
Mm-hmm.
really that's the most honest answer I can give.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm fucking
yeah, man.
I'm scared too, dude. Like it's like you were saying, Tony. It's gonna be World War III. I think we're gonna go into civil war. I think our economy is just going to completely fucking collapse. You know, and the ramifications of all that. I think will like really if I can get into it like real specifically. I think my prediction of what's gonna happen if they win is Russia pushes harder into Europe. I think China takes Taiwan. I think China goes even further and tries to get even into Korea, Japan, the South Asian Sea. Um, and with a civil war, if that happens here, I think the West Coast states will definitely vassalize under the Chinese Communist Party, and I think we'll have the Chinese government funding the leftist communist radicals here on the West Coast to destabilize the nation. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be really rough. Now, if she does become president, I completely hope none of this ever happens. I hope she's just dumb, and Xi and Putin are just kind of lackadaisical on um, their conquest and all this. But really, that's not what I'm seeing from this point. Because
I wish that was the case, man. I wish. I mean,
yeah,
does everyone remember what the last 4 years under Joe Biden has looked like, man? Where
bro.
essentially, uh, it was becoming quite evident towards the end that he wasn't actually the guy that was running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
anything
if
with
they have the ability to do
oh,
that
go
with
ahead.
him, just imagine like what is probably taking place behind the scenes with someone like her for a
Mm-hmm.
renewed version of essentially Joe Biden in a wig.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they tried desperately, desperately to never answer the media's questions about when Joe Biden started going senile. Kamala has dodged every single question remotely, like at all about that. So many interviewers have asked it in different ways, and she just dodges the questions so
Mm-hmm.
hard. No one ever wants to face it because it's true that he wasn't even the president. Like there was just a bunch of hollow deep state puppets that were running it, and they refused to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's man, it's I like you said, Chris. It's like I almost don't even want to think about it. But if it does happen, if
I
all
mean,
this shit, go ahead. Sorry.
she's probably going to at best serve as a more flexible conduit between the people that are actually pulling the strings and like the politics that is like on the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
But that's real. There's really not much more that is going to be um, different as far as like the status quo goes. It's not really going to be a lot more different.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be worse because
It's yeah.
you're going to have more time for this to fester
Mm-hmm.
and metastasize. a lot of these failures to establish an equitable outcome that it seems to be so popular with the youth. But history is lost upon many who support this.
Yeah, I gotta jump off, guys. I don't know if you guys want to stay on
Yeah,
after, but
yeah, we're doing closing up thoughts right now. So if you wanted to go real quick, Tony, and then hop off, and we'll get it closed out here.
of course, thanks for having me on, Everett. It was nice meeting you, man. Thank you, Chris, for coming on. I appreciate both of y'all, and hope to talk to y'all soon.
All right, later, man. Thanks for coming on. Keep it spicy.
Hell yeah.
Keep it spicy. Love that.
All right, Chris. Any wrapping up thoughts with this election and whatnot?
Trump 2024, man. I mean, there's really not much more I can say than that with all that I have going on in my life. And as much as I try to facilitate a healthy balance of staying in the know of like what's happening, like days until the election, and trying to micromanage everything in my life and my business. So it's quite a difficult one, man. I don't know. I really don't know what I really don't know what to say other than fight, 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 man. That's
There you
all I
go.
can say.
Yeah,
Fight,
no,
fight, fight.
that wraps it up really succinctly. Yeah, as far as my final thoughts, no matter what happens, I think everybody watching should be stocked up on food, should have a gun, ammunition. You should be prepared for anything to happen. Camping supplies, have a bug out bag, because we really aren't prepared for the lengths that the destructiveness can go, and how evil things can get. So just be prepared. As far as this last week, I know a lot of places it's done registering for voting. So hopefully you guys all have registered. Get out there and vote. Freaking, take a friend with you. Do everything you can to make sure you get your vote in. And then after you vote, make sure your ballot is actually counted and is counting for Trump, because we know they're going to play a bunch of games like they did in 2020. So really, we got to be real vigilant these last 2 weeks, and I think it's just insane that we got a couple states saying that we won't have election results for days after the election. So just prepare yourselves, get out there and vote. Yeah, because I'm scared, and I really care about all you guys, and I want everybody to stay safe and get through this, alive. So anyways, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you everybody for watching, and keep it spicy out there. See you later, Chris. All right. Have a good one, guys.